into that space, that sacred space, that place where we know we can go within, and in this stillness of time and a space that we can find peace and love and bring that out to share with the world. So I invite you just to get comfortable in your seat. If you're watching this on Facebook Live, just wherever you are, get comfortable. As one meditation teacher says all the time, comfort is king, or it may be comfort is queen would be more appropriate. So just find that place where you can still your body for just a few moments. And we do that by, once we get still in our bodies, then we start to breathe. Focus on your breath. Take a deep inhale, and inhale that love that the Unity Singers were just giving to us. Inhale that love and exhale that love to the world as you exhale. And then if you're comfortable and fully comfortable in your seat, you can close your outer eyes if that's comfortable. And just begin a few moments of being and rest, of being at rest. Inhale peace. Deeply inhale peace and let go of that peace as you exhale to the world. Now, let's inhale compassion. Just think about giving compassion to the world as you inhale. As you receive, as you go quiet within your total being, you receive compassion. And then you exhale compassion to the world. Love, peace, compassion. Hold these ideas in your awareness, not in your mind to think about, just as an awareness of who you are. Love, peace, and compassion. As we go into meditation, the practice is to keep our body still by putting your hands on your thighs, resting your hands on your thighs, feet flat on the floor, so that you can consciously know that you have a body, but you're choosing in this moment to be still. Just be still. And as we rest the body, we can also release the thoughts from our mind for just a few moments. This isn't an exercise of control of thoughts. We just let them drift by. No attachment. Just a time to be. Let the thoughts drift by. If you find that you get attached to a thought, just return to the breath. For that is the practice of meditation. It's just the practice, returning to the breath. And as I say this affirmation, this spiritual mind treatment, if you will, I'll use the first person. Apply this to yourself. I know there's an inner peace in everything. I know there's an inner presence in everything. I know that this present responds to me. I know that everyone is an incarnation of God, that living spirit breathes through all. I recognize this spirit and it responds to me. I realize that everything is alive, awake, and aware with spirit. I commune with this divine presence. The spirit within me reaches out and communes with the spirit in everything and everyone I contact. It is the same spirit in all, over all, and through all. I know there is an inner presence in everything I see, touch, and love and feel. This inner presence. So in the next few moments for this meditation in silence, feel this inner presence. We've talked about several times throughout this study with Brene Brown about this as an inward journey. And we're journeying to this inward presence. Feel this presence in you right now. Yes, it can feel bigger than you, and yet it can be in you as a feeling, as an awareness, as a thought even. To peace, be still in you, this presence. So now as you take another deep breath in and begin to enter the silence, feel this journey inward to the presence that lives and moves and has being in each one of us. Love, peace, compassion, as we journey within to this inner presence in the silence, in the silence, in the silence. So breathe in again love, peace, and compassion. And let those attributes go to the world as we wish to be. This is the peace, the love, and the compassion that we wish to see in the world. As it comes to us, we release and let it be. Breathe that deeply into the depths of your consciousness so that every cell and every organ of your body comes from this place of peace and love and compassion. Compassion for each other, compassion for yourselves, and compassion for our planet and the world. Now I invite you to begin to slowly wiggle your fingers and toes, move your body as you need to become back to this space, back to this place and time. And when you're comfortable, you can open your outer eyes and be here, fully present, right now. And that's one of the things I say all the time when we come out of meditation. Put a smile on your face. And I see that many of you did that today, so that's great. Okay, again, it's great to be here. Great to see all of you here. We're continuing the Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, Cultivating Resiliency, letting go of numbing and powerlessness. This is an interesting chapter. All these chapters are interesting to me. And Melissa talked last week about Guidepost number 2. These are guideposts. And that Brené Brown has laid out based on her research, shame, fear, and fear research that she's done her whole career about how to live wholehearted lives, lives that invite more joy and love into our lives. So Melissa last week talked about guidepost number 2, which was letting go of perfectionism. The week before that, guidepost 1 was cultivating authenticity. And in there I said that authenticity is not a word we use a lot to describe each other. It's not a word I use a lot. Resiliency, I think, is the same way. It's another word we don't use in our everyday vocabulary to describe ourselves. Yet, resiliency is the ability to overcome adversity. That's the definition that she has and other psychologists have about resiliency. And we all know people in the face of adversity, while not ignoring the conditions of their life, no matter how serious or how traumatic they are, people always seem to handle the stresses and anxiety in their lives with love, compassion, and grace, and yes, resiliency. And we also know of people who seem to be stuck in the drama and the trauma of their lives, whatever it is. I've got relatives that way, I'm sure you and friends, who just seem to stay stuck. They just can't get sometimes they can't get out of their own way. And so why is the difference? Why are some people able to handle because the anxiety and suffering and stresses are going to come to our lives. So why can some of us handle it better than others? Well, these are the questions that Brené Brown came out from her research. So, and as I was preparing this and knowing I was going to be up here looking at your face, I feel fairly certain that you guys are the ones that can handle adversity in your lives. You wouldn't be here today if you couldn't. Your journey has brought you here, both in this community and unity in general, and whatever spiritual path has brought you here. So whatever the adversities you're handling in your life, I feel like that's why you're here, is to cultivate wholehearted living. And we seek to be resilient, using problem-solving skills. We seek help, belief that we can do something about whatever is in front of us. And we've got a social network available to us, and we connect to family and friends. Those are the 5 things that Brené Brown says are characteristics of people who are resilient about dealing with their adversities and the circumstances in their life. Sometimes I think the adversities with our family members are harder to deal with than our own, our family and friends. Why? Because we have choices we can make in our own lives. There's things we can do, but it's challenging when family members have to go through even some of the same adversities we went through. And your parents or grandparents probably felt the same way about you watching that happen in you. So it looks like my son in Nashville, he lives outside of Nashville, is getting divorced. He and his, they're talking about that. So it's it's adversity for him. It's for my daughter-in-law and my 2 grandsons in that family. I can offer support, but I can't solve that for them. I can't solve those adversities for them. Likewise, I've got a granddaughter who has broken up with her significant other and is moving into her dad's house. She says that that's in order to save $1 million so that she can buy a house. So she's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's an adversity that she's having to face. And letting go of our own thoughts and emotion is a lot easier than dealing with those circumstances in our people that we love. And as I look around my office, I was thinking about this as I looked around in my office. I've told you that I like to find parallel paths for the teachings that we're studying, particularly the New Thought path or Unity paths. I looked around in my office and I've got 3 5-shelf bookcases and a shorter bookcase. I estimated just by counting the books on one shelf. I stopped because it was embarrassing how many books I've got. It was really embarrassing. I don't want to tell you the number, but it's a lot. And every one of them are about creating resilience. Every one of them about, in some way, every new thought principle that we look at, what we've already know is that everything is about creating how to deal with adversities in our life. Isn't that what the 5 principles are teaching us? To inspire and empower personal transformation, affirmations and denials, practical positive tools to inspire and transform our lives. Changing the way we see the world and our relationship to the world and everything in it. Changing the way we see the world, and first changing the way we see us. The teachings of all the Unity teachers and New Thought teachers, Charles and Merle Fillmore, Emily Cady, Elizabeth Sand Turner, Eric Butterworth, James Dillett Freeman, Paul Hasselbeck, Robert Brummett, Ernest Holmes from Science of Mind, and many, many others. And that's just the New Thought books I looked at. There's a whole lot more from Richard Rohr and Rob Bell and John Shelby Spong and Marcus Borg, on and on and on. They're all about how we change and how we see the world and how to deal with adversity. So in her research, she came up with, Brene Brown came up with the foundation for what it takes to develop resiliency to overcome our adversities. And it was spirituality. And it's not religion. Well, Melissa said this, it's not religious, it's not about theology, it's not about creeds or dogmas, but deeply held spiritual beliefs. And I think it starts with us and then our connection to each other. She says spirituality is recognizing, celebrating that we are all connected to each other by a power greater than all of us, and that our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. Practicing spirituality brings a sense of perspective, meaning, and purpose to our lives. You could probably put that on a Unity poster almost. Spirituality in her research emerged as the major component, the foundation of resiliency. She says, a question that she's always asked, particularly by her academic colleagues, is spirituality a necessary component for resiliency? Based on the data, she said the answer is yes. Any of us here in Unity know this already. It is who we are. It's what we do. It's how we live. Spirituality is about connection with God, the world, and with each other. And it's a compassion to bring compassion first to ourselves and then to the world. So Sasha Smith, her name is Silcutt, not Smith. Silcutt was one who believed, like many, that she had to be perfect growing up. Melissa shared some of this last week. That was fantastic. Her own personal journey with perfection. She grew up thinking that making perfect grades was the perfect grades, getting into the right school, looking good on the outside, thinking life was about making all these perfect grades, getting the prestigious fellowships for her medical school path. And then as well, she had to be the perfect mother. She had to be the perfect wife, on and on and on and on. But in the story I've read about her and heard about her, she describes her story as one of expectation of being perfect. And we do that in our society. I mean, Melissa was sharing about this too. But she learned through her career that resilient people share their failures and are not afraid to admit mistakes, big or small. It's the way we're vulnerable with each other. Resilient people, people that solve their problems, don't hide behind a veil of perfection. So after about 6 months of being an attending cardiac anesthesiologist working in the operating room in a hospital, she was on call one night. And she had 9 other anesthesiologists, physicians who were there in training. She was the attending on call. She knew the buck stopped with her that night. Where during the night, a very small female patient came in and was admitted to the OR. And through a series of unfortunate events, her operating team lost this patient. She was devastated. And she says even today, she gave this report years later, that she could hear the heart monitor in the OR beeping, and then all of a sudden it went silent. She was devastated because this had never happened to her before. And while the facts later revealed that it was not her fault, no fault of hers or no fault of her team's, it still crushed her. She was just devastated. None of that mattered. She went home that morning after a long night and just was comatose on her couch. She didn't know how to even process the events of the night because she had never failed like that. She thought about, the thoughts went through her mind, you can imagine, walking into the hospital room the next day and seeing another patient, and she couldn't imagine doing it. So she called her husband, told him that she had already written a letter of resignation, and she was going to go into the hospital the next morning and resign. Well, he, to be supportive, he said, well, that's okay if that's what you need to do. But then all the while, she probably knew in the back of her mind, she was thinking about all the student loans they both had together and how is that going to work. So he came home later that night, and while they sat together, she still hadn't moved off of her couch. She was overcome with grief and overcome with shame and couldn't face going back to the hospital the next morning. Later that night, a friend called, a partner of hers in her medical practice called. He was about to retire. He was 70 years old. And so he asked her a question. He said, "How are you doing?" She couldn't speak and just started crying, sobbing. Then he started to share with Shasha an event similar to that happened to him early in his career. He stated, offering her feedback about failure and her feelings. He offered feedback and about this complication that he never knew and never thought would happen to him. And he started giving feedback and normalizing this through his own even as terrible as it is to say that the failure is going to happen. And he asked, what do you need to do to process this? And then he said the last thing that changed the trajectory of her career and her life. He said, you have to go to work tomorrow. You have to get up and take care of your next patient who needs you, take care of the next patient who needs you, take care of the next patient who needs you. So her business partner, her medical partner, taught her how to seek feedback for her failure, quote, failure. And it was okay to fail and to process through it and to work through it. Her lesson is about to fail forward. Any of us to fail forward. That's the important lesson to know about resiliency. We're going to fail. We fail forward. Keep standing up. You know, you've heard all the slogans and the platitudes about that. Look to your right, to left. See who's on your there that you can always seek feedback from. We don't have to do any of this alone. So again, Melissa's journey with her perfectionism, I've got a similar story to that, and Dr. Silcott also shared that journey with her. Many of us have that. That's just one of the things that we do that blocks our way of creating a life of wholehearted living. So early in my career as an engineer, there was I learned very quickly early on that I was going to make mistakes. We just did. I mean, either I made them or my team, that I had a group of other engineers and designers and draftsmen working for me, we were going to make mistakes. These large projects, these $200 million projects, it's not possible to have a, quote, perfect job. But yet, you know, people that we were working for and people around us, particularly architects, I hope there's no architects here, think the engineer should be perfect. Even the architect for sure is not perfect. So I learned, at least in my professional career, about being vulnerable enough to admit mistakes, big or small. It costs the company money sometimes. Usually if we admitted that we had a mistake, the client would be receptive enough that it wouldn't cost us any money. Usually if we didn't cost him money by the mistake, if we caught it early enough, there was no ramification really for it except maybe correcting the mistake. And the same thing for the construction. People expect the construction project to be perfect. It's not going to be. It's a series of corrections that have to take place. So Shasha's story, Dr. Silcott's story, describes when we are vulnerable in sharing our professional and personal failures, we become more resilient. Being vulnerable with each other. It is so easy to pull back and not share what is really our story. It's like the picture of the iceberg. You know, what you see about me is up here on the top of the iceberg, and if I don't consciously show you, you don't see all the stuff below. I mean, simple stuff, little stuff, even a picture that you put up on social media. You don't want to see that because it's not the brightest colors. I don't have my hair fixed right or whatever. You know, we don't want to see that. We're too, and it comes from a place of shame. So we have to release that shame, avoid failure blindness. So Shasha now speaks about how perfectionism leads to burnout in her career, in her profession. Doctors, dentists, lawyers, professional people have the highest rates of suicide in the United States. It's not always like that in other parts of the world, but it is here. Developing resilience in yourself inspires others to see failure as a path to resistance. That's not intuitive. We have to be taught that. Developing resistance in yourself inspires others to see failure as a path to resilience, a path to solving their adversities. So from the pattern of spirituality as the foundational for resilience, Brene Brown found 3 other patterns as being essential to developing cultivating a resilient life. Cultivating hope, practicing critical awareness, and numbing and taking the edge off. When we struggle with worthiness, it's hard to develop resilience. It's hard to do that. So today, we engage in so many behaviors that help us numb. Addiction can be described as chronically and compulsively taking the edge off of the feelings. And here's the key: we can't selectively numb the bad emotions. When we numb, trying to take the edge off from something that we can share with others, we numb the good part too. We numb the positive emotions. So we can numb, the list could go on and on and on. We could numb ourselves anesthetize ourselves even with a whole bunch of stuff, including drugs, alcohol, food, sex, relationships, money, work, caretaking. I'm reading the list because it's so long. Gambling, staying busy, affairs, chaos, shopping, planning, perfectionism, constant change, smoking, and any other addiction, and the internet. Numbing is not just about the addiction, though. It's not just about addiction to drugs or alcohol. An unexpected discovery in Brene Brown's research is when we numb the dark, we numb the light. We numb the light. So 12 or 13 years later, after her story in the hospital, she was doing another case in the OR, and her phone rings, her cell phone rings. And it's her 13-year-old son who's an hour away and just finished a basketball game. He had to ride with the team to an out-of-town game about an hour away because his mom and dad both were working. So he's by himself at this out-of-town game, and he whispers in the phone to Sasha, Dr. Silcott, "Mom, you have to come pick me up." Well, of course, instantly she thinks that he's broken his arm, he's hurt himself, or something, something like that. I said, "Well, why do I need to come get you?" she said. "What's going on?" Her son then whispered again and says, "Well, I got fouled toward the end of the game. 5 seconds were left. We were down 1 point. I went to the free throw line. I missed both of my free throws. I can't get on the bus. I can't get on the bus. And you got to come get me." Everything you can imagine inside her wanted to be the mama bear and go get her son. "I'm coming to get you, baby. Just hold on," she said. But instantly, in that instant, she instantly knew that this was a teaching moment. She said, "Son, I've been there. You have to get on the bus. You have to get on the bus." So through her tears in the operating room, she told her son, "I've been there. You have to get on the bus." That's called life, and and she didn't have to even say all the things that it would build. You can see what that does. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is an author it's one of the books I've got. She's written a lot about death and grieving. Brene Brown quotes her, and I love this quote: "People are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out. But when the darkness sets in, their beauty is revealed only if there's a light within." We light this Christ candle every day to represent, every Sunday to represent that light. So we know that. We present this in our service every Sunday. So these stories and facts, Brene Brown walks both worlds. She's very humble. I sense her being very humble. And she also is very touching too. These are the stories that inspire us to do better, to cultivate resilient spirit. And I hope that maybe you've thought of a time that you failed, and maybe you're still holding on to it, holding on to the shame of that failure. Let go. Fail forward. And remember, get on the bus. Namaste.
Okay, thank you, Rev Ron. Great job. Wonderful message. Get on the bus. Okay. Oh, thank you, Melissa, for being platform for us today. And again, thank you all for showing up, being here with us today, too. Now, if you've had a chance to count all the books in the library, I don't know, you might have more in your office. Okay, now if you ask nicely, he might let you go in there and count them, yeah. Hey, and if you've been in the kitchen, there's a celebration going on. If you look in there, there's some cupcakes. And so that means we're celebrating birthdays, and there's a whole bunch of them. If you want to pick up one of these event sheets, I'm going to try to list these in chronological order here, not by year, but by day of the month. Okay. All right. Well, happy birthday to Marcia Pell. Her birthday is tomorrow. All right. And Joan Woods, her birthday is the 7th. I think is that next Saturday? Okay. So that Joan, congratulations, happy birthday. Kathy Hoffmaster, who is in Maryland now, her birthday is next Sunday, the 8th, Kathy Hoffmaster. So we wish her a happy birthday from a long distance. And Rich Keevan, his birthday is the 14th of this month. Sally Stevenson, her birthday is the 26th.